in 1989, and it continued until 1995. It was conceived as a national dance project focusing on dispelling the stereotypes of what black dance was and is, while showcasing national and local black choreographers. Our premise was that the art of black choreographers is not limited to any particular form, because our festival focused on black dance makers exploring many dance genres, including performance art and various experimental forms. It took place in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego, where I said San Francisco was Theater Artaud. Los Angeles was produced by First Impressions Performances and happened at several venues. And in San Diego, it was produced at the Sushi Performance and Visual Gallery. It was conceived as a comprehensive initiative that included not only dance concerts, but humanities panels, like you're going to see here today, and school outreach. As I was basically the executive director and founder, Dean Beck Stewart, whom you're going to hear today, was the artistic director at Theater Artaud. Neil Barclay produced it in Los Angeles through his First Impressions Performances, and Lynn Souchette for the Sushi Gallery. The Black Choreographers Festival Here and Now carried on the tradition starting in 2005. The annual concerts that they celebrate and have, it's just happened at Dance Mission, by the way, 2 weeks ago, looks at African and African American dance and culture, featuring award-winning Bay Area choreographers and companies, as well as emerging artists. The co-founders are Laura Elaine Ellis and Kendra Kimbrough Barnes. I am so happy to be working with them. So the entire project we're calling the Spirit of Sankofa. It continues the Bay Area's Black choreographers' dance legacy. And Sankofa is a Twi word from the Ashanti ethnic group of Ghana that loosely translates to go back and get it. Sankofa encourages learning from the past to inform the future, reaching back to move forward while collectively lifting the community. It's represented in the Ashanti Adinkra symbol of a mythical bird with his feet firmly planted and the head looking backward to the past, but at the same time eating the egg of the future. So past, present, and future blend in a continuum. Here we are, the three ladies who's doing this. So today we are going to have two panel discussions. One focused predominantly on the Black choreographers moving toward the 21st century, and the second looking at how the Black Choreographers Festival continues that legacy. I'll be moderating both panels, but both panelists will be coming up to the stage and sitting in those chairs and having just a dialogue. But there will be a chance to have a Q&A with you, and there will be some cards being passed out throughout our presentation today, where you can write down questions that you'd like to ask of us. And at the end, everybody, all the panelists will come out and we will try to answer some of your questions. And there will be performances in between those two panels. So you're going to actually hear about dance and see dance. Those are the cards? Okay, great. You haven't heard anything yet, so I'm sure you don't have any questions.
Later.
Okay, our panelists. Dean, who's going to come up here in just a few minutes, Dean Beck Stewart. When BCM started in San Francisco Bay Area Theater Artaud, which is an internationally acclaimed, large-scale, multidisciplinary, contemporary performance art venue, I was the company manager with Kim Fowler as executive director, leading the organization for the inaugural festival in 1989. He was then appointed general director the following year, and he led the organization as it co-produced the next 4 years of the festival in San Francisco. He has an extensive background as a performing arts producer, commissioner, presenter, and performer. Dean Beck Stewart is currently board advisor and performance coach for Sing Napa Valley, an intergenerational community choir in Napa, California. Also joining us will be Joanna Highgood. And since 1980, she has been creating work that uses natural, architectural, and cultural environments as points of departure for movement, exploration, and narrative. I remember in 1989, for our first festival, she was up on this trapeze, swinging and moving, and then came down to the voice of Billie Holiday. I'll never forget that lifting up and that groundedness all at the same time. Her work has been commissioned by many arts institutions, including Dancing in the Streets, Jacob's Pillow, Dance Festival, Walker Arts Center, the National Black Arts Festival, and Festival d'Avion. She has also been honored with the Guggenheim Fellowship and a New York Bessie Award. Highgood is also a Dance Magazine awardee for 2024. And our third panelist for this first one is Dr. L. Martina Young. She's a dance artist, writer, somatics educator, and humanities lecturer. She is a multi-year fellow of the National Endowment for the Arts, beginning her dance career as a member of the Inner City Repertory Dance Company under artistic director and choreographer, the great Donald McHale. As a soloist, she has collaborated with the Watts Prophets, as well as Los Angeles Inglewood Symphony Orchestra and the Reno Philharmonic Orchestra. As a dance educator, Dr. Young has served on the faculties of the College of William and Mary, California State University of Dominicus Hills, and California Institute of the Arts, and as a director of dance at the University of Nevada, Reno, from 1987 to 1994. She is also a celebrated author and essayist, and her literary work is published in various scholarly and professional journals. So she's after my own heart because I'm an artist scholar, and I want everybody to know that dancers, real dancers and artists think, and we write, and we let our audience know about our perceptions in various forms. All right, I think I've set that up quite well, and now I'm going to show you, before I bring the panelists up, just a little snippet of the 1992 Black Choreographers Festival at Theater Artaud, with Dean Beck Stewart welcoming the audience and thanking the many components that it takes to do a major project like this. And he's also acknowledging the fact of the social and political context that we were in 1992 with the Rodney King's riot happening just at that same time in Los Angeles, where our festival was taking place as well. After that, you'll see just a short clip of our great late dancer, choreographer here in the Bay Area, Robert Henry Johnson's the famous, dancing to the famous poem, The Creation. So let's check that out.
Good evening. Welcome to the third Black Choreographers. My name is Dean Beck Stewart, and I'm the Executive Director of Theater Artaud, and I'd like to extend a gracious thanks to you for coming out this evening. This project, through the performance's educational component and the symposium panel discussions that we do affirm the connection between art, culture, and most of all, our community. It would take me way too long to stand here and thank the over 100 people that have made this possible for the past 3 years, but I would like to take just a moment to acknowledge a few. Olivia Samari, the founding director, is in the audience. We couldn't do this project without a group of people that have been absolutely instrumental in determining what the needs of the community are around this project, and that is the Black Choreographers Moving Advisory Committee, and there are several members here tonight, and I'd like to thank them. I'd also like to thank my board of directors for Theater Arto, the Black Choreographers Moving Project staff, and most of all, the exceptional, permanent, ongoing staff at Theater Arto, without whom this would not be possible. There are some in addition to the communities that we generally think about in terms of the people we know, that there are some communities that are represented here. The funding community is a very strong partner in this program, the media, and the dance community. Most of all, especially tonight, I'd like to thank the Black, the African American, and the African community for their contributions to the culture of the United States of America. I'd like to take a moment of silence to acknowledge the possibility of a peaceful, lasting resolution to the issues that are happening right now around the Rodney King situation. So, please join me.
And God stepped out on space and he looked around. And he said, I'll make you work. And as far as the eye of God see, darkness comes every day. Blacker than 100 midnights, down in Cyprus on his. Then God smiled, and the light broke, and the darkness fell on one side, and the light stood shining on the other. And God said, that's me. God was out. That's the light into his hands. And he rolled the light around his hands until he made the sun. And he set that sun blazing in the heavens. About that sun that made the sun. Yes, right. God gathered it up into a shining ball and threw it against the darkness. Spanking light with the moon and the stars. And down through the darkness and light, he heard the word, and God said,
That's good. As an ancestor. All right, I'd like to bring our panelists up. Dean, Joanna, and Martina. No, just take whatever seat you would like. If we could bring our next slide, the first question for our panel. Okay. Just in case you know how to distinguish them, Martina, Dean, and Joanna. Yeah, let's get Martina flew in from Reno, and Dean drove all the way from Napa. way from Sacramento to be here. Yeah, and Joanna's the only San Franciscan in the bunch.
Actually, I'm from Bolinas.
Okay.
By way of San Francisco.
Okay. To get started and to hear their voices, I just wanted them to look at the memories they have of the Black choreographers moving toward the 21st century, both in San Francisco and in Los Angeles, because Martina actually performed in our Los Angeles venue, and before she had moved to Reno. So we have both San Francisco and Los Angeles represented in terms of us trying to make the Black Choreographers Moving Festival a statewide initiative. And I'd like them to look at what their memories are of those times in terms of the groundbreaking inroads that we made, and how was it a continuation of previous Black dance projects, and how was it different? So I'll just start to my left here with El Martina. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, I can. First, I'd like to just welcome all of you. I'd like to welcome all of you. Can I be heard? Is this working?
Yes.
Okay, and I wish to say happy Nowruz, good blessings for this spring weekend, this first springtime weekend. May it be easy. I came with a few evidences of our lineage before and after. Let me also begin with saying the Lakota say the answers are not in front of us, they are behind us. And so the notion of looking back to pull forward the values that maintain a lineage, that maintain a value of what it means to be walking on this earth as a human being, exists in most, if not all, I can't say all, but certainly most indigenous cultures, earth-based cultures throughout the world. It just so happens that when Halifu and I spoke about my participation for this marvelous celebration, 2 years ago I just finished an essay that is titled Backward Walking. And it starts with a phenomenological description of literally backward walking that I opened with my performance, my last concert performance, which happened to be with the Reno Philharmonic. And so it opens with that and then weaves philosophy and intentional thought about the importance of looking back to move forward. In 1983, in Los Angeles, a colleague and friend of mine, Linda Washington, who was and is the artistic director of the Los Angeles Dance Theater, she and I entered into a conversation about producing a venue that would be inclusive of those artists in Los Angeles who were, to our perception, being neglected, not certainly marginalized, and not having entrance into or onto the mainstream stages. So we began to assemble artists, companies, voices, and a space for the first Rainbow Across Dance in Los Angeles that produced many of the companies and artists, the Folklorico company, the Korean dance community, all of us who were working at that time and yet working somehow under a rock in Los Angeles. The space that we were able to acquire for this first event was the Inner City Cultural Center. And that was a place that I had grown up in the community, that had begun with the vision of C. Bernard Jackson, who had recently, or I should say recently, had 20 years earlier, just after the Watts riots, moved from New York City to Los Angeles to begin this inner city cultural center, which happened to be the hub of artists like Mako, like Carmen Zapata, Raymond St. James, Glenn Turman, B. Richards, and this was the environment, this was the beloved community that I had actually evolved out of. So it seemed to make sense that this would become the place for starting or certainly producing something of this nature. That was 1983. Fast forwarding to the notion of creating a venue for artists who are working beyond what the media was writing about in terms of Black artists, what we were doing, what we came from, certainly acknowledging our lineage, but going far beyond, as my father used to say, color outside the lines. And that is where Black Choreographers Moving, fast forward by 1989, with bringing to the attention of our communities at the local, state, and federal level, what artists were doing beyond what they were telling you we were doing. And so I want to say that what was different was that we recognized for ourselves, as well as for our communities, ways in which we were breaking boundaries. That dancers, and I see that today, I see that where it has gone forward, and I know that this will be addressed in the second panel, but I wish to say that we were coming forth from, let's remember, the 80s was one of the most drastic, devastating pandemics that we had experienced. We had lost so many people from AIDS and AIDS-related viruses. That was then. Before that was polio. Before that is what we call the influenza. And before that was the Black Plague. So here we are once again, 5 years in the wake of yet another pandemic, that is now exploding with the persons, the team at our White House. I just will say that much. Because it is as devastating at the exponential level right now. And what I see in our dancers today, which we will be gifted with their work, we come with faces from the dance world through our bodies that are healers, that are writers, that are producers, that are curators. And this is what this particular venue, Black Choreographers Moving, seeded in 1989. Thank you. Yeah.
We all come from somewhere and have life experiences that are shown in what we do, which was kind of the premise with Black Choreographers. I first want to say thank you and give huge gratitude to Halifu Osamare for bringing the project to the Earth. I'm also thankful to Kim Fowler, who was the artistic director at the time. We brought it forward. Without her, this project probably couldn't have gotten off the ground the way that it did.
Yes.
And to speak to that, I'd like to read just an excerpt from the first program for Black Choreographers that was written by Kim Fowler. It gives a little context about what we were doing. One of the primary goals of Theater Artaud, particularly in the last 3 years, has been to present artistic work that is reflective of the broad cultural palette that composes our country and our world. Initially, this seemed somewhat problematic, not only because of the financial constraints. Most artists of color need to have significant financial support to present their work in theater and at the scale of Theater Artaud. But also because the parameters of experimental and contemporary artistic work have been so heavily defined by Western European influences. There are relatively few artists of color working within such a narrowly defined limits. We have not yet reached the age where race and color are not societal issues. Let's talk about continuing this. We are entering a time where important questions are being raised as to what cultural heritage means, what its importance is in terms of how we define ourselves individually and as a culture, and what are the products of this intersection of a variety of cultures. What are the value judgments that accompany these intersections from within and outside of the cultures included? And does one culture still emerge dominant within such intersections and serve to define the mix as a whole? Kim?
And I'd like to say Kim Fowler is a black woman who was in charge of that theater at that time. And when I brought the idea to her, recognized its importance, and that statement, which is only an excerpt of that statement, shows her consciousness and how much we've come full circle still dealing with the same stuff.
Yeah, in a different, more crucial way, I think. So that's Kim. I was fortunate to be the company manager of Theater Artois when Kim was in charge, so I got to watch and experience all of the inner workings of putting on a production, or not only a production, but an event that had so many different kinds of experiences for a broad community, whether it was symposia and humanities component that was kind of an intellectual exercise. We had programs in the schools working with choreographers and black performers so that kids could actually see what that is because they hadn't been exposed to that before. And they looked like the people that were in the audience, which was amazing. And we also had a lot of panel discussions and discussions among ourselves all over the city. I kind of wish, and I still wish this, that there were more people involved in experiencing it, because I think in the breadth of that, a person may have gotten a piece here and there, but not the whole extent, which is why we moved on to doing it over and over again, because we kept wanting to bring it to more and more people. In the beginning, in San Francisco and in the Bay Area, and I think in California as well, there's a really heartfelt support for artists and for artist companies. Predominantly, the money was actually going to artists and to artist companies, and presenting as a presenter was not funded and very popular in the Bay Area. The only institutions that were presenting were Eurocentric, doing Eurocentric work. Even Cal Performance's repertoire was not that open at that time. So we found a place, in a way, through Kim's efforts of raising money, because she was so good at it, to get us into a financial situation where we could actually do this, where we could present artists in the community with the community together. I think that's kind of where that was. Where this project came from in San Francisco was we had a history of American immigrants, which was before the Black Choreographers Project, and a lot of the events that happened at Theater Artois. Kim actually worked on that project, and so she had that background in working in a festival context. There was a movement that was a result of what wasn't in American immigrants and what was not being supported by major funders, which happened to be people of color. And they kept saying, well, they're not out there. Where we can find them that are in our genre? They don't exist, right? And I said, well, you're looking at the wrong door, because they're out there. So it was really exciting to bring people, be able to bring people from outside. One of the major funders for us to do that was the National Performance Network. It was a network of about 24, 25 organizations, similar but yet different than Theater Artois. The NPN funded all 3 sites to be able to bring the work here and also commission those artists to create work for this project. And it was a place where this table was discussing these issues and just beginning and trying to explore this coming out of the American Dance Festival.
Right. And the American Dance Festival had started something that was called the Black Traditions in American Modern Dance, where they were honoring finally the great choreographers who didn't always get their credit, like Donald McHale, Pearl Priebus, Tally Beattie. Those were the older artists that the American Dance Festival was focusing on.
And in that context, there weren't the contemporary rule breakers that we knew that were out there creating work that had a combination of form, very different, of where the work was coming from, what the perspective of the artists were, which is why we focused on Black choreographers rather than Black dance. Because choreographers are the people that are making the decisions, they're the makers of the work. And so they had a great, what can I say? They had all the risk at stake to come and to create the work and to generate this work and to get it out into public. And what it took and what influenced those choreographers to be able to create their work, whether it was a new form, an alteration of an old form, or whether it was rooted in a very traditional West African aesthetic, but all of it was contemporary. It was being made now, right now in our time, and to bring those people who are thinkers, very articulate, to the table and to be with each other. In that forum, we all learned about each other and went from individuals trying to define themselves to what eventually became a community of artists that knew about each other and understood each other better because people thought their work was alone in itself, but in reality there were a bunch of people working in those different art forms. So it was very exciting. It was very exciting. I think that I'll come back to something else because I've been talking.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we have one of the artists who was in that initial festival in 1989 right here with us, Joanna Highgood.
Yeah, first, thank you, thank all of you, and particularly Alibu and Dean, who I have a special relationship with, growing relationship with you, but definitely a long-term relationship with the two of you and all of the opportunities that you have given me to show my work, and particularly in this festival. And all of you for being here, and happy spring. Thank you for that. So anytime somebody asks me about my memories, and I climb up and think, "Ooh, I'm 68. Which one am I going to dig back into?" That's always a challenge because I'm, forgetting names and so on. However, in this festival, so many of those experiences were hard to forget, and I do feel like I probably won't ever forget them. And one of the things I think you both alluded to this was the diversity, the rigor, the thoughtfulness, the innovation of all of the choreographers who were in the festival and those who actually, some who have continued through what Kendra and Laura Lane has done and also seen the young folks coming up. But during that period, I had never been in a festival with other Black companies. And so it was really invigorating for me to be in conversation about what is a Black choreographer, and it's like we are not working in this monolithic way, that there was so many different rule breakers at the time, and that would be in relationship to the type of narratives that people were working on, the questions that they were asking, and in my case, just how do I climb all over the building and try things that were at that time a little bit edgy. So I feel like just in terms of an experience as an artist, to have been in that space together and with a group of people from all around the country created such a sense of possibility and a sense of, we were all struggling in the ways that we were because we were Black dancers and dance, choreographers. But that this being together, being able to be in dialogue about our experience, reaffirmed our commitment and our drive to keep going. And that the work that we were doing was in fact important. And it also felt like we were being seen in a way that was really powerful. I think just being together in this way was, it was really, really rich. You look like you want to say something.
But I would just say that in our first panel, which happened at the Museum of African Diaspora, beginning of February, the artists like Robert Moses and others here in San Francisco were talking about the difference between being a part of a project like this and being presented by the regular presenters. Whereas when they came into Black Choreographers Moving, they didn't have to explain anything. Everybody knew what the aesthetic was, or if they didn't know, like in your case, I didn't even know what aerial dance was until I saw you. But it was an acceptance and a feeling of this is home that made Black Choreographers Moving different than being presented by other in other venues and in other projects. And so I can really see that. And I insisted that we have panel discussions, that besides the performance, that artists would talk to each other and the audience would talk to them. And that created the dialogue, as you were saying, that helped to move all of us along and explain to us more who we are, because we weren't just in isolation, but we were in a family dialogue at that point, and that made a major difference, and it helped set a different kind of tone and educated our audience.
And each other too.
I was going to say the artists too.
Educating each other.
Yes.
Yeah, because I just want to add two things that kind of, to segue into the next part of this, is that there was, Donald Byrd was an artist that I had known before, and he came, and people were discussing, even still then, what is a black dance company? And his company happened to be all white, and his reasoning for that was he couldn't find dance artists that were of color that could execute the quality and the level of skill to be in his company.
And I know he was challenged about that.
And he was challenged.
But that was his take.
Yeah, but, yes, exactly. So, but other people were there that were in the same situation. They were doing different kinds of work. But his work changed over time. In fact, he came back with the minstrel show.
Yes. That was all about black culture and black people.
And American culture. Because he talked directly about the early forms of theater in America, which were minstrel shows. And every art form that came out of that, including stand-up comedy, television, tap,
Broadway
musicals, all of that came from that culture and from that point of view. And he, in doing this expression, also had his African-American dancers in blackface,
Yes.
which was a huge comment, and talking about what the masks are that we wear and who we are under all of these masks. And so that was one of the big things that actually, just in terms of immediate impact, and not to say that that's the correct thing for him to do, but he did it because he was exposed to different perspectives and trying to understand his own culture.
That's right.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, just this quick one, was I got an email from somebody that worked on all the projects in a technical situation. She was a technician. I'm not going to name her name, but this email came to me, and she thanked me profusely for exposing her to this work. And that at the time, she was white. She didn't understand why we were doing this and why we were giving special treatment to people that maybe weren't quite up to the standard and of what we were doing, because that was part of it, was to give exposure, to give people that opportunity, because they haven't. But now she's a professor in college, and she's dealing with the true issues of becoming a culturally representative organization that has multiple cultures in it, and the work that she's doing is exactly what we were doing then, and it gave her the skills and the perspectives to be able to address it. So it was wonderful.
I just want to just add, because you said something that made me think, wow, standard. So whose standard actually is it, right? Yes, yeah, the standards, right? And that's the thing that was so exciting about the festival, that all of that was broken down. All of that was broken down. That standard was some kind of artificial and also very race-baiting, right?
It was from the very
And that's exactly what Kim is saying in that,
Yes.
about, being in a Eurocentric based aesthetic that sets the standards,
They never had to explain themselves, but we had to.
Right. But you see, so it's a lot of rich stuff in this, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of rich,
And still timely.
right?
And
So-
very
It's,
different.
yeah, I mean, what goes, as they say, what goes around comes around. So we definitely need to spend more time with this, but we also need to see some dance. So we're going to bring the dancers up. Give them a hand, please. And remember, we have our second panel that's coming up as well. And Joanna will be joining us with that again to talk about what she's doing today. Oh, you don't have to do that. They'll have some people doing it.
Oh, okay. We're so used to it. We're so used to it. We got everything right there. We're trained.
Laura Elaine Ellis, everyone.
Are we on the podium line? Joanna's so well trained, started clearing, Joanna's so well trained, started clearing the stage. Thank you. Joanna was one here that we needed out of the way. They started clearing their own sets, yeah. Let's see. Hi everyone, we're so glad you're here. This is a great crowd. Are you having a good time? Yeah. I am Laura Elaine Ellis, and along with Kendrick and Browns, we are celebrating 20-year anniversary of Black Choreographers Moving, listen to me, Black Choreographers Festival here, and now we stand on the shoulders of Black Choreographers moving to the 21st century. So we're going to do some performances. We have two soloists in this first performance segment. They performed iterations of these works for our New Voices, New Works program just a couple weeks ago at Dance Mission Theater. And our first choreographer will be Natalia Schoaf, doing a piece, Origin to the Sea, talking about just what it means to be discovering self. And then following that, Dominique Lesliane will do a solo that is really embodying what it means to be a Black woman. It's Diary of a Black Woman. And so those solos will happen back to back. First Natalia with their piece, and then Dominique. So it is my joy to bring to the Court Auditorium stage these two amazing solos, Natalia Schoaf and Dominique Lesliane. Can we give them a warm welcome?
It's so
Nas noites de lua, te arrumar. Eu me chamo Liga e morar. Se andando a vida na beira do mar. Se andando a vida na beira do mar. Eu amo a falta de silêncio do mar. Eu amo a falta de silêncio do mar. Olhar na maré seca eu deito. Na maré seca eu deito pra levantar. Eu amo a falta de silêncio do mar. Olhar. Eu amo a falta de silêncio do mar. Olhar. Na maré cheia eu canto. Na maré cheia eu canto pra levantar. Na maré seca eu deito. Na maré seca eu deito. Odoiar.